We're recording.
All right, Kathy Alexander.
We're recording now.
We're recording, all right. Hi, everyone. At our last meeting, John asked if I would share the meeting going forward. So if we could begin the meeting, it is, I think my watch is a little fast, 4 o'clock. And if we can have approval, someone could make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 24th meeting, please.
Can we just, before that, can we just do some introductions?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
We can start.
All right, I'm Kathy Alexander.
I'm Mona McKim, Finance Director.
Let's go this way.
Fine.
I am Mallory Monaco. I'm the underwriter for the town and board from Kerma.
I'm Ashley Rita. I'm the Vice President of Underwriting at Kerma. And I used to be the underwriter on Rocky Hill when I started, which is why you guys can't get rid of me.
We're not complaining.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve Pendle, Emergency Management Director.
Jerry Luzette.
Dana McGee, Director HR and Legal Compliance.
And I'm Ray Carpentino, Economic Development Director.
And
Acting town manager.
You seem to always forget that when people ask.
So I don't have the, did they send an email with the minutes and stuff? I didn't,
Yes, do you have it?
I have them right here, yeah. I'll give you the minutes.
I just didn't print it, I
Do you need an
apologize.
agenda?
Yeah, I apologize, I didn't print the stuff out.
All right, and so we can have a motion to approve the March 24th minutes.
I think we've only got 2 on the committee, so, Gary,
Jerry?
you
Take a
have
look at
the
them.
motion?
Since I'm reading right now, sure, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Thank you, Jerry. Second? Can I second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I second?
Yeah.
I will second.
You just can't make a motion, but.
Yes.
If I can second, all right,
Yes.
I second. Any opposed? All right, let's begin. Mallory, would you like to give an update? On
Yes.
Kerma, please?
Oh,
Okay.
it's okay, great.
The old days.
Okay, so to start off, I wanted to give an update on the claim activity. We'll start with the workers' comp and then look at the liability auto property. An update since we last met in March. So just to start, set the scene a little bit, these losses are valued as of June 30th. And so I say that to make note that the 21-22 bar in these graphs contemplates a full year worth of losses. So our policies incept on 7/1, so the 21-22 bar incorporates 7/1 through 6/30 data. There's 6 years included. A lot of times we'll show you 5 years worth, but I did include the 6th year, the 16-17 year, for kind of some perspective. We touched on the 17-18 year in past meetings, but wanted to kind of show that 16-17 year again for some perspective, and we'll get into that in a minute. But just a reminder, the y-axis here shows the direct incurred. That is both what's been paid out as well as the reserves on all of these claims. So there's not a lot of change since we met in March in terms of the workers' comp losses. The 2021 year increased slightly, about 22,000. The 21-22 year has increased by about 375,000, mainly because there are a couple of claims, about 3 claims that came in since we last met in March, and those are really what's driving it. However, I will say that the 21-22 year, again, just ended less than a month ago on 6/30, so a lot of those claims are very recent. They're still open, and there's a lot reserved. So,
And just to jump in, so you guys know, Kerma is very conservative with our reserving processes. We don't do incremental or stair-step reserving. We like to reserve to ultimate in the hopes that then we'll be able to take the reserves down as the claim closes, as opposed to, we'll reserve it for $25,000 now, 6 months later, oops, really now it's going to be $100,000. So keep that in mind as you look at those numbers as well.
yes, exactly. And with that in mind, the 21-22 year, of that overall 449, 163,000 has been paid. So the bulk of that, the 286,000, is reserved. So again, a lot of recent claims will, like we always say, we'll kind of keep an eye on those, but because they are so recent, we'll want to see over time, how those shake out. But again, I wanted to kind of take a look on the whole here. So when we look at this graph, usually kind of what we look at is the 17-18 year is what stands out. The 19-20 and 20-21 were really good years. And like I've mentioned in the past, that 17-18 year is largely one single claim. So there was a $499,000 claim that is closed in that 17-18 year. So think about, without that, you're really in the $200,000 range. So wanted to point that out. Again, keep that 16-17 year in there to show kind of overall, you kind of are in that same area, anywhere from the 339. Again, 1920, 2021 were really good years. So, a big pop is bound to happen. The severe claims are bound to happen, but just wanted to point
And
that
usually
out.
we expect them once every 5 years. So again, sort of to Mallory's point, this is a good depiction of what it looks like. And as she said, if you take out that one claim, it definitely levels the average out considerably.
Then if we look at the bottom graph, this shows the same data, as you can tell by the same bars. This one just shows you which departments are contributing the lost dollars in each of these years. So again, the main part of the 17-18 is the teal. That was the one park and rec claim. The 2021 year, you'll see that's largely police, the orange. And I wanted to point this one out as well. That is almost entirely 2 open police department claims. Both open, like I said. Between the 2 of them, there's still 50,000 reserved, so we will continue to keep an eye on that too, because that is a large portion of that year as well. And then the 21-22 year, there's kind of, like I said, one claim in each of these departments that stands out: fire department, education, and ambulance. And those 3 actually all came in March or later, so that's why those weren't contemplated in the March graphs. But again, still early on in each of those claims, they're largely reserves as opposed to dollars paid, so we'll keep an eye on those. And then this next chart shows you over the last 6 years in totality what departments are driving. So just to briefly take a look at it, Parks and Rec is driving 28%. However, $605,000 of the 624 is 2 claims, one a $499,000 claim and one a $106,000 claim. So again, to Ashley's point, we kind of keep that in mind, looking at what the severe losses are. So, this pie chart is a bit skewed when you keep in mind that it's really 2 claims that are almost the entirety of that part of the pie. The next is education. I will note that There are 63 claims that are made up in this part of the pie. Two alone are contributing $353,000, one of which is the custodian claim from the most recent year, the 21-22 year, so again, open claim. And then the green part is the fire department, $231,000 is one single claim, 231 of the 430. So kind of the trend I've noticed is over these last 6 years, there's kind of one severe claim, severe being relative, obviously, it depends. But in each department, it's not any one department that stands out as consistently having, a lot of severe claims. It's kind of all over the board. But again, like Ashley said, bound to happen every once in a while.
And it's nice that not all of the severe claims are happening in 1 year. Each
Yes.
department is sort of taking turns, which,
Yeah,
knock on wood.
And the bottom graph is the same data as the top graph, just taking out the Board of Ed claims. If we look at page 3, this top graph zones into education specifically, just to show you breakout by occupation there, similarly to how we did the town on the prior page. Custodians are driving 65%, but again, $207,000 of the 380 is one single claim, which when you kind of discount that, brings custodians and the teachers, admin and clerical, kind of on the same playing field. So it is skewed a little bit because of that. But again, considering the nature of the job of a custodian, the physical nature, makes sense that from a dollar standpoint, they're the ones that are driving.
And strains and sprains, lifting injuries, any sort of, stretch is going to have a longer recovery, usually require some sort of physiotherapy. So it's a much higher cost of healthcare than, a broken arm where it breaks, you put it in a cast and you move on.
Right.
Right.
Soft tissue damage is never a good thing.
And then moving on to the bottom graph, we're now switching gears from lost dollars to claim count. So from a frequency of claims standpoint, the number of claims being reported in each year is very consistent year to year. As a reminder, the red here is education. And just considering the number of employees in this group as compared to number of employees in town, makes sense why that's kind of the bulk in each of these.
And we say it at every meeting, keep reporting
Yes.
claims. We do take into consideration in our pricing claims that are notice only, that have no dollar amount attached to them. It's very important for us to be notified of a claim in case down the line something does happen, at least it's open and we're aware. So, we absolutely encourage all of our municipalities that it's better to report something and have a higher claim count than not report something and have a large dollar loss come in later down the line. Because by that point, medical records, years have passed, people don't remember the incident, was there, a lot of different factors come into play the more time that elapses.
And then moving on to page 4 is our last page of workers' comp related graphs. So the top is just showing you claim count by department on the whole. Again, this is 6 years. So 54% being education related, 46% being town related, so almost split half to half. Again, with the number of employees in the education segment, makes sense that they're the ones that have the majority. And then kind of following down the line goes police, fire, public works. Again, expected with the physical nature of each of those jobs that's where the claims are coming from. And then again, on the education side, school teachers, administrators, and clerical driving 86% from a claim count standpoint, as opposed to 14% from custodians. Again, the dollars are coming from custodians because, to Ashley's point, the nature of those injuries and the time that they're out, and the costs of their claims, as opposed to the nature of maybe a teacher's injury, as well as count because of the number of employees in the teachers, admin, clerical group, as opposed to the fewer number of custodians. Any questions on the workers' comp graphs? So moving on to page 5, we have the lap loss analysis, which again is the liability auto property, again valued as of 6/30. To start again back with the lost dollars side, there has not been a lot of change since March for the lap. There was a slight increase on the 2021 year, but really that's about it. Similarly to the workers' comp, where the 17-18 year stood out, and it was the one park and rec workers' comp claim, the 19-20 year stands out here, but that is largely the windstorm damaged fire trailer mobile and contractors claim, closed at $475,000 in the 19-20 year. So that is largely what's driving the overall 607 in that year, as well as an auto physical damage claim for an ambulance in that year. The two of those together makes up almost the entirety of the 19-20 year.
It was a good year.
I remember that loss very, very
We
well.
both.
I remember when you heard about that loss.
You and me both.
And then in the 2021 year, like I said, that has increased a little bit since we met in March. There are really two claims that are making up $157,000 of the 229, both auto physical damage claims. Overall, of these 6 years in totality, there are $56,000 in reserves still open. So most of it has been closed, but we'll obviously keep an eye on that. But again, the 19-20 years, what stands out here, again, a severe claim that is bound to happen every once in a while.
Hopefully, something like that, not again, but.
And then the bottom graph here shows the losses by line of business for the 6 years. So again, the first, the biggest part of the pie graph is the mobile and contractors equipment. Again, 475 of that 481 is that fire trailer, followed by automobile, which is kind of to be expected that that's the line that follows. Public officials liability to follow, and then, kind of descending from there. But I did want to point out, like I did last time, that of the professional liability lines, public officials is here in green, school leaders is here in teal, and law enforcement liability is not on this graph because there have been 0 claims and $0 paid on that line. So I did want to acknowledge that. Yes. On the next page, showing again by line of business, but breaking out into year to year. It's really the same data, but showing you again that mobile and contractors is the 19-20. There was one public officials liability claim in the 17-18 year, closed at $117,000, making up that teal portion of the bar. And like I had mentioned, the 2021 year, both of the larger claims in that year were auto physical damage, so that's the blue. The 21-22 is really kind of, as you can tell by the colors on that bar, it's not really one claim, it's, kind of a mix of claims all over the board, smaller claims all over the board in terms of line of business. And then on the bottom, we switch gears to claim count. starting with public officials liability. I wanted to mention that 36 of the 40 claims are closed with $0 paid. So that is not a big dollar driver, which is great.
Thumbs up.
And then auto, again, following with 36 claims, 31%, which is kind of to be expected that they're toward the top of this in order. But again, many of those aren't large dollars.
Does that include the all glass for the windshields and so forth? Would they be in here?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if we switch to the last graph, this shows line of business claim count again by year. There's more fluctuation here in terms of claim count, but it's pretty consistent from a standpoint of which lines of business are which proportion within that year. So you kind of see, comparing year to year, the orange is making up a similar, orange being public officials, is making up a similar proportion within that year to the years comparatively, even though it does kind of fluctuate year to year. But again, not huge fluctuations because the increments on this are 5.
Yeah, we're not talking big,
So, no.
big numbers on the.
No. So, any questions on the liability auto property?
Thank you. Very thorough as always. All right, moving on to cybersecurity.
I think that's me, right, Linda?
Yes, it
Okay. So this is just a verbal update. I don't want to go into too much detail just because of the nature of this coverage. It's, kind of sensitive details that you don't necessarily want on public record. But just to kind of give a high-level landscape, we have been working with Mona on the cybersecurity and the cyber liability coverage. This is a coverage that in the last 5 years has changed pretty drastically. The market has changed due to sharp increases in ransomware claims. And so as a result, it has become increasingly more difficult to secure cyber liability coverage because basically the carrier is looking to see, is the applicant doing what they can to mitigate their risk so that they are comfortable with putting the exposure on their books. Basically, is the applicant doing what they can so that they're best protecting themselves? So with that in mind, the number of controls that's required to get one of these policies has increased. It seems like
It's like
every month.
quadrupled,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
We started out with like 4
Yeah.
key requirements, and now we're somewhere between 12 and 16.
Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
12 pages worth.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so I just wanted to mention the town has done a very good job this year of kind of improving their cybersecurity posture in terms of kind of what carriers are looking for, making sure the controls are in place. They're really looking, like I said, to see that you're putting the controls in place on the day-to-day employee level so that accidents don't happen or it's more infrequent. So again, didn't want to go into too much detail because of the nature, but just wanted to, give a little round of applause for the good effort.
Thanks.
Any cyber placement is a victory.
Yes.
Yes, it was feeling like that.
Yeah.
It is challenging, and I'm just kind of on our side, because this is working, not just myself, but the IT department and human resources as well. But we find that a lot of the challenge becomes a budgetary thing, that, the requirements are more strict and a few more hurdles, and it would tend that we would try to address them, but we were like a year behind. So it's just thinking very proactively, and we've got our IT department doing that, and I think the council is now hearing that. So we say, these are the things we need, this is where we need to
Yeah.
focus. So I think we've done better this year. The
And
struggle
you're
was less.
obviously not the only community that faces that monetary battle with, I mean, even the biggest corporations are vulnerable and they have, very robust IT departments, and even they're vulnerable. So to have the challenges that you guys face, where unfortunately investing money into a network security infrastructure is not always top priority. But we do, again, appreciate the efforts and the steps and the positive forward movement.
Thank you again, Mallory. Town Safety Committee, is it Dana or Steve? That would be you. All right.
Me.
Okay.
I'm ready to be today. No PowerPoints.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I do. Plenty here. Extras. Thank you. Some more here. So I'm sharing with you a cover memo as well as an excerpt of our governing documents for the safety committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to go through the entire memo line by line, but I'm going to note some highlights. Just as a reminder, the safety committee exists as a result of a statutory mandate. I think it's been a very long time since I've said that. We tend to have so much fun talking about some of the activities and some of the training, we forget that. It's a statute that essentially created the safety committee. And so your municipal employees are engaged in a legal compliance activity every time they engage in work for the safety committee. And our last meeting, we meet quarterly, was May 25th of this year. Some of the key items that I'd like to call to your attention, we noted that the safety committee expanded its EAP services. And so now our first responders, we've always had the police as a member of our EAP, ESI services, but now we also have the fire department and the ambulance company. And so that means that they have an entire library of services available to them, including child care services, believe it or not, free legal advice, up to 3 sessions with a counselor, experienced psychiatrist or psychologist, depending on what's appropriate for the situation. And that's all included in the contracts that we maintain for now all of the departments for the town. So that was a major change this year. The safety committee, we have them to thank for that. That was a request that originated not just because of some of the things that the employee population needed, but it was escalated to the safety committee. They advocate for the employee population. Mental health first aid resources and training for town staff. We, not unlike other employers, are having the experience of employees who, we live in the world, right? And so we have staff who from time to time have challenges either at home or on the job, and it helps them to learn different skill sets to get through those challenging times, those coping skills. And as an employer, it impacts our productivity, it impacts retention, it impacts our employees getting along with each other or not getting along with each other. And, you could see the reflection in our public officials' liability cases, people who perhaps haven't learned their lesson the right way and need to learn a different way of dealing with the world. That's why those expanded EAP services and the mental health first aid training and resources is very important to us on a regular basis. Also, we have a program that our sergeant, one of our sergeants, Sergeant Jeffrey Foss-Rugen, is trying hard to get the town certified as a heart-safe community. If a certain percentage of people in the town are trained and certified in CPR, we get recognition as a town for being a heart-safe community. Are any of you familiar with that?
No.
Town of Woken, my brother-in-law's an EMT for the town, so they were Heart Safe Community over 5 years ago.
Years ago, right? Yeah. So this is something that towns really want. It puts your name on the map for the right reasons. And I'm proud to say that not only do we have a sergeant who's been advocating for this now for a couple of years, but now the safety committee has taken up the cause, and they are going out and going into their different departments and trying to get volunteers. Sergeant Foss Rugen will actually run those classes and make sure that we have additional people trained and certified. And if your certification has run out, we will re-up the certification for you.
Do the town residents be trained in CPR? There's the town employees.
Actually, businesses, business representatives, and residents, as well as town staff.
What's the percentage?
I don't,
You don't know?
that I
Just
don't
curious.
know.
I'm
That I
just
don't know. I
curious.
could get that information
So
for you.
it's probably based on the population of the town.
Precisely, precisely. And AED.
I think that's
AEDs.
wonderful.
The location and availability of AEDs, which gets to one of the other things we've noted here. The safety committee.
Acronyms are thrown, I could throw.
Oh,
acronyms.
sorry,
So,
AEDs.
what is it?
You're going to have to remind me. The AED is the
Automatic.
Automatic.
External defibrillator.
Defibrillator.
the defibrillators.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the-
Okay. I know insurance.
Certified.
So there's local, is the officer the person to contact? Because there's different organizations that meet in town. Like I'm the president of our homeowners association.
Okay.
I know a president of another homeowners association, and they're required to have annual meetings.
Wonderful.
And so wouldn't that be an opportunity for him to come to these meetings to
Absolutely.
promote this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you'd like, we can get you some contact information and
Yeah,
put
because
you in
then we
touch with
could,
them. I'm sure you
because
would love.
whether, I mean, we have 118 households and maybe 20 people show up, but that's
Wonderful.
20, households that could show up for this, and that we could promote this. And
Thank
again,
you.
there's
Thank
other
you.
local stuff that could be done.
Wonderful, thank you.
Right.
That's excellent. And also with regard to the AEDs, the municipal supply and inventory of AEDs, as well as the system of making sure that all the batteries are checked and replaced on a regular basis. Sergeant Foster is in charge of that program too. And the safety committee went above and beyond to make sure that we identified one centralized person to take care of all of that. It used to be a little disjointed. And in terms of workers' compensation, Camille Carney has joined us. She is taking care of the intake for both full and part-time employees. I will note that this also includes, in the summer months, our employee roles expand to summer camp counselors. We get quite a few seasonal employees added
Sure do.
to our staff in the summer. And so when we look at some of those Parks and Rec numbers, there's, we have a different number of employees that we add to the roles, and different types of injuries that might occur. As you can only imagine, being a camp counselor for everyone from the 7 and 8 year olds all the way up to the high schoolers. Okay. OSHA mandated training and compliance activities. I've shared with you an overview of all of the annual classes that we hold. Thank you to KERMA. One of the wonderful things we love about KERMA is they offer this training for free. I say that every year, right? We get this for free. We get live training, usually in this room, for free. With the exception of asbestos awareness, which is a vendor who does that and is certified to do that. We also coordinate the training for the Board of Education. And this year, scheduling was incredibly challenging, so in order to help the BOE out, Steve Pendle actually volunteered to take care of them in April for us. So that's how we take care of our annual mandate, and we're done, and we start the process all over again in about 3 months.
Short breather.
That sounds about right. And we're just getting ready for, renewal budgets. Yeah.
All over again. And then, just as an FYI also, on a proactive basis, my department, HRLC, and the fire department and your police department have developed a relationship with the educational consultant unit for our state OSHA. And by being a part of that program, There's an agreement that if you invite the educational consultants into your municipality, okay, if they do see something that is amiss relative to safety, health and safety issues, because you are under the umbrella of the educational consultant, it doesn't become a mark against you. Instead of being cited for a violation, they consider it to be a proactive activity on your part where you invited them in, let us know what we're doing right, let us know what we can do better, and they take an educational approach instead of an enforcement approach. So it's wonderful. We've been a part of that program for the past couple of years, and this past year, both your fire department and your police department started engaging in that program too. So we're having tremendous success with that. And then finally, before I end, I will make another note on something that I hope that you're proud of as an insurance committee. You've heard me talk about it before, but now, unfortunately, it's even more timely. Back in 2017, 2018, the safety committee requested active shooter training, right? You've heard me say this before. We are going back to 2017, 2018, before this stuff was quote unquote popular, right? And we had two subject matter experts, law enforcement officers, Lieutenant Joe Phelps and Sergeant Steve Morgan, who actually went out of state, traveled, became certified in the Cutting Edge program known as ALICE. The acronym is ALICE, Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate. I can't stress enough that, we won an award for it back in 2019. So your municipality has been recognized for being on the cutting edge, again, way back when, for putting not just its town staff, but also all of your teachers, all of your principals, all of your administrators, and at the time, that group of students through what was considered by the FBI, Homeland Security, the best practice when it came to dealing with an active shooter, violent, critical scenario. The huge difference is that these people that I'm referring to, your town folks, have been trained that in the event of an active shooter, or if it's a knife, regardless, they say shooter, it could be a knife, we don't hide under the tables. We are not teaching our children and our teachers and our employees to hide anymore. We are teaching them that these days, the folks that are coming to hurt us, they're not looking for hostages. I can't stress this enough. They're not looking to get on the phone and have a conversation and get money in exchange. They are playing a tape in their heads, and they are looking for a body count. So if you are encountering people that are still teaching, I feel so strongly about this, our children, your teachers, to hide, they are doing you a disservice. There are other options, and we are supposed to be teaching people other options. And you should be proud that you have municipal staff, in particular our subject matter experts, who have gone above and beyond. We did a refresher course this past June. It was June. We had 4 training sessions in June. Everyone got a refresher course in the active shooter, the appropriate way to respond. And the school actually talked to Chuck earlier this morning. The school is re-upping their ALICE shooting also, active shooter training also. They will be going through an abbreviated version for people who have already been trained, and for their new staff, they will receive the full-blown training. So right now, it's a matter of health and safety, that you train people the best practice way instead of the traditional lockdown.
Yeah.
So hopefully that sounds good in your ear, that people are getting cutting-edge training here.
It's critical training, very much so. We just went through it in the hospital. It's very critical.
So how public is this that everybody's trained? I mean, I live down the street from Stevens School, and the neighbor, I don't think the neighbors know this. So, I mean, is it communicated that this is done?
Why would it be important that the neighbors know? The neighbors, perhaps, if they're working.
We had an active shooter. We had, the school was shut down one time. I can't remember when it was.
Yeah.
And we walk daily, and when we were walking, that's when it was shut down, and the neighbors freaked out. And so it wasn't communicated what was happening. They didn't have any knowledge of it. We came back and everybody I live on Pheasant, on Partridge. My street goes right into Stevens School. We couldn't get out, we couldn't go in. And so there was no communication that we have this training.
I believe the
with-
parents knew, though. If we're referring to the same
Yeah.
incident, I think the parents knew, and I think that there is a method of communicating with the public as the police deem important and
So
necessary,
it's not
which is very
necessary
important.
to
So
inform
I would have
Okay.
to say you'd have to defer to
to fellows.
law enforcement
Okay.
experts
I know,
who
Joe.
make the decision
But-
as to when and where
Okay.
to communicate.
If I can jump in from an emergency management perspective, we're going to be marketing the Atlas program,
Good, I was gonna say
which
that.
is a program that's currently in use by the police department. It's a free app. You sign up for it, and it alerts you of, and to the level as well. There's
I actually signed up, I think.
I signed up.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So you've seen just recently, the issues, whether it be in Rocky Hill or the surrounding communities of, they're looking for this, or there's a lost dog. Some of the stuff's minor, but on the major stuff, they will say this area is closed because of, and we're still ironing out, I'm going to bring it up under emergency management, the avenues of communication. So who gets it? How do we get it to PD, to get onto the Atlas web, to get it out to the community?
So maybe I'm asking the question wrong. Does the public know that that the staff has been trained in this? That's, not that they have the knowledge of an active shooter, but. So I might have asked the question wrong.
Yeah.
And
That's a good question.
because-
It's probably a good idea to let people know that.
Yeah,
Use-
that's
use
was my
officials
intent
who are all
on asking the
trained.
Got it.
question.
Got it.
Okay,
And
'cause
that could be as easy as a posting on the website.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we-
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that would be
Yeah.
something
I
to
see
be,
what you're
first of all, proud of, number one, and number two,
Very proud
let
of
the
it.
public know that this has happened and
Right.
that their schools are as safe as they can be.
Yeah, I see your point, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so I'm
That's a good point.
sorry for asking the question.
No, that's okay, now I understand. And you should know that back in 2019, those two officers did go around to area businesses. Channel 3, WFSB, Channel
Channel
3
3.
received training from those same subject matter experts. So,
Okay. Thanks.
yeah, it's important.
Thank you.
Steve, I guess the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, update for emergency management. As we're all aware, COVID is our priority when it comes to emergency management. We still manage the resources and public information. We updated our webpage with some COVID information recently. As of 3:45 today, we are at 11.79% positivity rate, which is continuing to rise, very concerning. We have 4,000 cases over the past 7 days. And in the town of Rocky Hill, we've had 21 cases over the past 7 days, 21 positive tests. The town itself is 10.5, whereas the state is 11.6, I just said. So the cumulative cases in Rocky Hill are 4,000 cases so far. So it is a concern. We keep monitoring it. At this time, we are under a recommendation to wear masks. We're not under a mandate to wear masks. We follow the CDC guidelines and local health. But there is discussion of moving, possibly if this continues to go up, especially with the monkeypox, which is really starting to take a little bit of a hold in the state as well. So we may see some changes coming when it comes to the COVID situation again. And we're just hoping that it's not going to go in that direction.
And that positivity rate is only people who report, not people who self-test at home.
Right.
Yeah, so that could be
it's a
much
very-
higher.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
it's a skewed number. And again, people who may test positive don't want to report that because then you go into isolation and I have to work and my work's not going to pay me. And that has been a very big discussion amongst emergency management offices in the state because the accuracy as to what we report. And the state says, hey, we can only report what we get. So
So where are these numbers coming from, then, data?
this is the data pool for the state of Connecticut. It's
I mean,
released
from
every
like the,
Thursday. health department recordings.
The testing sites.
So like PCR tests at a hospital facility?
Exactly.
or
You know, hospitals, medical centers are all required to call in. And then what happens is that information, again, as they're called in, the private citizen who takes the home self-test that I've had for 6 months, which is now maybe expired, you know, creates a whole nother issue because they get a false test, you know. So COVID is still front and center. That's our main priority for emergency management. It's on our weekly dashboard. We continue to work on it. Unfortunately, they went away from everyday reporting to once a week now. And it comes out, I was explaining to Mona, I didn't have anything in writing because it comes out at 4 o'clock on Thursdays. So literally, I was waiting at my computer until the email popped up to run into the meeting, so.
Ready, set, run.
But I got it. I did get it, though, which was good. So, as you all know, with the emergency management new office, we have a new emergency management center, an EOC downstairs. We have a lot of things that are going on. My goal is to educate the community in emergency management. If you go on the website, we've just put a bunch of items on the website, storm preparedness, tornado preparedness, things like that. My goal is to update those quarterly as we go into the fall. We're going to talk about winter weather advisories and things of that nature. So we're trying to do a lot of education. We had great success with a presentation that I did for home emergency management, Be Prepared, back in April, and we're doing another one in September. We had about 30 attendees. We gave away a free, what we call a go bag. Our next one will be in September. We're also going to be doing an online webinar. You know, for those who want to view it as opposed to coming into the library to see it, they're gonna do that for me too, which is pretty neat. Updating all the material, the emergency ops plan, with the changes in place and the levels of disasters we have and new shelter locations and new EOCs. In September, we're going to have a big meeting and roll all that information out. And the last thing is staying in tune with the emergencies in town. I've been working with fire and police on activations. We've had some large-scale power outages. Today, we have 170 homes that are out of power right now.
That many can do that.
Yeah, so, you know, we have a great communication and link 24/7 with Eversource, so I was able to call them. They were able to tell me how many homes are out. We have 170 that'll be out till 5 o'clock. Partial road closure right out front, so we had a big tree come down, take down the primaries. And fire, I've been working with fire on, you know, large-scale emergencies. We've had some gas leaks, that I go out to and assist with whatever they need. So the emergency services in town have been very receptive, and they've allowed me to kind of play in their sandbox, which is neat. And most of all, just updating all the policies and procedures. The biggest thing is we're creating a CERT team for town. So we're going to have a citizens emergency response team. The overall goal of it is not just for emergencies. We're going to have volunteers in, when they sign up, they're also going to sign up to be a volunteer in library, senior center, fire department, police explorer. So it keeps them active because, as you know, with emergencies, sometimes you have them every day and then sometimes you don't have them for months. So to keep everyone engaged, one of the goals is what secondary function would you like to volunteer for in the town? So we just finished the application process. We have the marketing material. And as of next Monday, I will start, handing out flyers. Exactly. And that's it for emergency management. If anyone has any questions or comments or...
I have a question on Atlas. How do we pay for Atlas? Is it based on how many people sign up for it?
We're not paying, it's
don't pay.
through the police department, so it's a free app to the citizens. The police department maintains it through their, I believe, through their budget.
They've got their
So
license
that's
in their
what I mean. So
budget.
it's in their budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
know
one
we
of the
don't pay
things
for
with
a
the
resident
Atlas is it culminates the surrounding community. So like Newington's on it, Weathersfield, I don't believe Berlin or Cromwell are. But if anything happens within those three towns, those notifications come over. And it's not something that's overwhelming where your phone's constantly beeping. It's a once every other day, twice, maybe a week. But when things do occur, the police department does make sure that they, to Dana's point, they release the information based on the severity of the situation. So they'll release that, there's a road closure, we have wires down. If there's for example, a while back, we had a situational police emergency. It was marketed as a road closure due to police activity, and that's all it was. It turned out to be, so it was a little bit of a domestic situation, but they don't put that on there. They just said, this area is closed, please avoid the area.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
But that the ATLAS program is very, very up to date, very in tune. The minute that their dispatch is aware of it, their dispatchers put it online and it goes out. So that's something that emergency management, I know, will be talking about at the presentations, as well as it's in the handouts, it's in the flyers. Please get online with it, and then this way, the more people we can get online, the bigger the message we can get out to the field.
Good, thank you for service. Thank you. Mallory, I think it's back to you.
Yes.
You want to talk about money?
Yes. This is one of the most exciting pieces of news I deliver all year.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's pretty close.
It is.
I was going to say, no, I'm pretty sure it is the best message.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, now Dana wants her number, her workers' comp numbers to go down.
Well,
That's right.
So our member equity distribution, what this program is whereas a for-profit insurer would have, dividends that they distribute to their shareholders, KERMA is a member-owned and governed organization, which means we don't have shareholders. We are owned by our members. So we have this program that started, I believe, in 2011. And we distribute our members' equity back to our KERMA communities. So what this means is this year our KERMA board approved a $5 million distribution. Over the last 12 years, we have done 11 distributions. We've given back over a total of $41 million. And in order to be eligible, you have to have been a KERMA workers' comp or lab pool member in the 2021 year, the 21-22 policy period, and renewed for 22-23. And so I'm very excited to say that I have a check for the town.
Emergency management.
And Steve will let
Cybersecurity.
We're all going to put our hands.
I'm thinking of gin and tonic.
Panama Beach.
So this year, Rocky Hill is receiving back $51,438.
Thank you very much.
And you know what, to Dana's point about workers' comp claims dollars improving, that actually does all tie in with the equity return, because after we go through our financials and we make sure we have enough surplus and equity for the pool, cover claims, all of our expenses, if we had bad loss years, that extra money would be paying claims. So it's really nice to be able to return it back to you guys.
So you're saying HR is going to get it?
I'm not getting into that.
KERMA's a captain.
That's okay.
It's when you
operate
I'll be happy.
Steve, that party's already,
We operate a workers' comp.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I built that right
Julia
into
Captain.
the
So, sort of not really.
Not really a captive?
Not really a captive. We have our own paper that we file with the state, although we are not, we are accessible by the state. So If the pool goes under, like Myrma did, we've been around for 41 years now, we're not going anywhere.
Okay.
Financials are strong, thank goodness. Let me preface by saying that. But basically, it's almost like a risk purchasing group. So we have all of the communities pool their money together for workers' compensation. Unlike a lot of municipal pools, we do evaluate each insured community on their own experience, efforts, risk mitigation practices. So we underwrite each town almost as if it's its own insured, but we do look at it as an aggregate basis, like a risk purchasing group. It's a homogeneous exposure. It's really law of large numbers.
It just sounds like a captive to me. So-
It's, you know
so,
what,
I mean,
for all intent and purpose, if that's how it makes sense to you, then go with
Yeah, okay,
that.
all right.
Because it took me, I came from commercial insurance, so it took me a good year and a half, 2 years to figure out what this whole pooling thing is.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
I
still
understand.
wonder sometimes if I get it, so don't worry. But yeah, I mean, it's for all intent and purpose, like I said, it's our own paper, it is fronted, we have, different retentions for the workers' compensation, property, liability, that's reinsured out, excess of loss,
I'm
so,
familiar with captives in the health insurance. And
Okay.
stuff. So that's why.
very similar concept.
All right.
We're just not making money. I mean, we are,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not profit
Yeah, not
money.
profit, yeah. Thank you.
We're not going under.
I think we ended on a very happy note.
Right, Mona? Yes, we did. Very happy.
Any other questions or anything, comments? Jerry, I think you have to make a motion to close, to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 5:02.
And I second that, thank you. And our next meeting is November 17th, same time, same place.
Okay, sounds good. There you go.